Hey everyone, it's Austin Solomon, the Solomon Group at Coldwell Banker. Welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wausau Real Estate Show. Today I'm joined by Dakota and Allison Karlen. Welcome guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys. So today I want to just dive in, tell our audience a little bit about like yourselves, right? Get to know the team, right? Get to know you guys. You guys have an awesome story, and we want to share that with everybody. So let's go back to the childhood days. We're gonna start with Dakota. Dakota, when you're 4 or 5 years old, what was life like back then?
Very simple. We ate a lot of popsicles and played in the sandbox quite a bit, and was very infatuated with tractors.
Oh, there we go. I love it. So you grew up in Marathon for the audience to know, right? So you grew up in Marathon.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about after the popsicle days, and those actually continued on, I know, but after those, like that, 4 or 5 years old, tell us a little bit about like high school, what happened after high school, when you met Allison too.
Yeah, we actually met in kind of the middle of high school, the summer after sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of like the bodybuilding, powerlifting scene, which I kind of continued a little bit more after high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was just very much so focused on being the best successful person that I can be in many different facets.
Yep.
And obviously when you're younger, that looks much different than as you start to mature, grow, get older in every area.
Right. One of the things, for our audience doesn't know this, but one of the things that Dakota is a very strong man. Dakota, tell us a little bit about some of the numbers you were hitting. Dakota's laughing. Tell us some of the numbers you were hitting in high school. It's pretty impressive for our active audience that knows some of these things. Tell us.
Now, my form was not amazing. That was very much so less than ideal, but I think I benched 385, deadlifted around 600, and squatted like 485.
That's awesome. This is in high school or
high school?
Okay.
About 195 body weight.
That's awesome. Super impressive. Yeah. So, Allison, you grew up in Mosinee.
I did. Yep.
Did you grow up in the house that your folks are in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. All
yeah,
right.
they built that house.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Mosinee area, how you met Dakota, and just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I guess I grew up in Mosinee.
Yeah.
Yeah, with two older brothers. My older brothers are actually adopted, so they're quite a bit older than me. So I grew up with a lot of nieces and nephews around the same age as me. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then Dakota and I met, like you said, in high school.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool just to see, we've grown up together. We've, since high school, it's been kind of cool just to see everything that we've kind of went through together, and just especially now being able to work together too. It's been really cool.
That's awesome.
One of the very interesting dynamics between us two, just as we're sitting here talking, and like her growing up and me growing up, and we joke about this a lot. I grew up on more like the farm setting, like country boy.
Oh yeah,
she grew
I'm
up
city
more
girl
of the
for sure.
city girl, and not as apt at trying new things.
Sure.
So I had a brother, and then obviously my parents on a farm. We had like 5 cows.
That's
and stuff
awesome.
Growing up.
Yeah,
and
Dakota's
like the 4-wheelers and
he always made me try different things like pickled anything, and that's not good. So
Not fun. Not fun. That's awesome. So Dakota brought kind of that adventure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very novel too. Mm-hmm. Like Dakota's always like looking for excitement, looking for new stuff, right? And that's probably comes up from like from the upbringing too, just being open to new ideas and looking for fun things to do. And
in the country you had to be creative and adventurous, and I mean, from chasing bugs to digging holes,
right,
and just the most random things to occupy your time.
Right. Sweet. Well, let's talk about the college days. So Dakota, you tell us a little bit about that. So graduated in 2015.
Yep, graduated high school in 2015.
Yep.
Then went to the MC for my first 2 years, UWMC there in Wausau.
Yep.
And then after that, I transferred down to Stevens Point. Still continued with the bodybuilding and powerlifting, very much so probably more of my main focus in school than school. Then I probably transitioned to more of like the business idea and culture in my sophomore year of college, and decided that that was more of an enjoyable route for me. Met a professor at Stevens Point that really kind of geared me into that and honed in my skills a little bit and helped me out in that direction.
Yeah.
Then really just kind of the college life of,
Right.
a college student. There wasn't a ton, I'd say, that I did necessarily outside of like my schoolwork, bodybuilding, and then some business endeavors.
Yeah, absolutely. And we met at the UWMC. I think
Yeah.
In the,
Before the real estate days.
Before the real estate days, in the student union.
I think it was the SGA office.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah.
The SGA office. Alice, you guys were always in there.
We were. Well, we
Yeah.
were part of the SGA. So
Yeah.
what was it?
President.
Government. There you go.
Yeah. That was a great, those were the glory, not the glory days, but that was a great time of life.
Yeah,
I think we were all
absolutely.
like well connected and a good balance, At least for me, I definitely enjoyed those times. Obviously, like, things are great now too, but wasn't that a good time of life?
It really was. I mean, there wasn't as many cares at all because you were really transitioning from the high school where it's like they tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You got 8 hours a day. It's kind of like a job.
Right.
Where you go to college and it's like, hey, if you show up to class or if you don't show up to class, it's like you're still paying for it. And then you just kind of enjoy your time with friends, hang out, and choose what you want to do much more than I feel at any other time in life.
Right. Allison, you were at the UWMC too.
It was, yeah. Well, I graduated in 2015 from Mosney.
Yep.
Then did my 2 years at the MC.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went and transferred to lacrosse, actually. And I guess I had an interesting school experience. I never really thought this is where I'd be today or doing this at all. I really never thought I'd be doing any sort of business anything. But because I was going to school to be a radiation therapist, I wanted to do that since like 5th grade. So I went and did that. I actually, 18 people get accepted into this program in lacrosse, and lacrosse is the only school in Wisconsin that has this program.
Wow.
And I got accepted into the program, and I dropped out the first day.
Wow.
So, I just had a feeling that this wasn't what I was called to do anymore for the rest of my life. So I took a year off of school and had no clue what I was going to do. I did car sales for a little bit. I did insurance sales, and neither of that really sparked any interest.
Right.
And kind of here I am today. And I'm actually just finishing. I went back to school, and I'm graduating at the end of the month, actually, with a marketing degree. So
you wouldn't know that she's back in school because she's like crushing it and working hard and like putting in tons of hours. So I think she does her studies sometime between the hours of like 8:30 at night and midnight. So
for sure,
you would not know that she's like going to school at all. No, that's super exciting. So that's cool though. You followed your heart, and that's cool. A lot of people, I think, especially, and we're all like fairly young, for context, we're all 24, 25, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you 25?
24.
Oh, we're all 24. Okay,
Yep.
we're all 24. Yeah, so we're not too far removed from like high school, college, etc., right? And it's super interesting because I think a lot of people are groomed for a certain script, and we've kind of all of us have not followed the normal path.
Yeah.
And it's worked out well for us, right? But I think we all know people that have friends and etc., and they've kind of followed the scripts, and because it's just kind of what they were supposed to do, right?
Yep.
And then they follow the pressures, etc. But you kind of like, you got in and you're like, you know what, this isn't really what I want to do.
Yeah, I
That's
definitely, I had the thought in my head to kind of just push through and like, it'll be fine, like whatever, everybody kind of does this thing. But yeah, I just had something in me that was like, I know I can do more, and that's what I wanted to do. So
yeah. And I have a slightly similar experience because after 2 years of being at the UWMC, I just stopped going.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, you got to finish. And realistically, it just wasn't right for me.
Yep.
So that's fantastic. Okay. Tell us about how you guys, Dakota, you started the charge on getting into real estate. Why'd you get into it?
Honestly, because 2 major things. I would say 1, prayer, because I was lost at what direction I wanted to go, and I had no clue. I wanted to actually be a a surgeon for probably 8 or 10 years. I planned on being a surgeon. I studied. I got the 4.0 GPA. I did all the extra stuff in order to, pursue that route.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I started to get into a hospital setting and decided that's just not even close to something I want to do. It just wasn't a good fit for me.
Yep.
So when you feel like you have a plan for so long and then all of a sudden that plan is like completely shattered, you're pretty lost.
Yep.
And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Met one of my best friends in the gym, and he kind of turned me on to the God route a little bit more. Didn't really have a relationship with God before that.
Yeah.
And so him and I got connected, and we started working out together, kind of talking about the Bible and praying and, just doing different things to really advance me towards what I'm actually supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so that, in that kind of business was a topic of conversation.
Yep.
And so I started to get interested in the business route. And then I met a professor down at Stevens Point that had tremendous success in the business space. And he really, I would say, coached me and mentored me, and still to this day is mentoring me in many different facets of business.
Yep.
So that is what turned me on there. And I didn't know where to get started in business. And he said that he had a very successful real estate business in the California market. And so I was like, okay, I never even thought of real estate. And to tell you the truth, before meeting him and yourself, I didn't even know what a realtor was. I had no clue that realtors help you buy a house. And I think just those conversations and many long conversations, it made sense for me to start somewhere. And I didn't know what business to start or, what to do, how to get that personal relationship with people. So I decided, obviously I knew you from prior to even being in real estate from college. And I was like, well, shoot, let's see what you're up to. And, kind of in talking to you and talking to the professor, I decided that starting as a realtor would be a good fit because I'd be able to learn a lot of the necessary skills to perceive and move forward.
Yep.
And so, a lot of prayer, professor, and then joining you is what got me turned on to the route and where I'm at today.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think it's important for especially on the guys front. I'm looking at Allison right now on the guy front to have a sense of direction, right? And kind of a calling. So that's cool to hear. Yeah. So Dakota started fall of 2018.
Yep.
Just one of the craziest starts, just got into it and boom, started making things happen. Did 56 deals in your first year, which is basically more than double than anyone else had ever done, right?
Yeah, I believe it was a accumulation of 8.4 or 8.5 million, something like that.
In my first year, I did 26 deals for 4 point something. So Dakota had doubled that. So we were pretty excited, about that. And yeah, continuing to obviously to grow and to help more people out, provide, amazing service for people. So it's been fantastic. And then in 2020, Allison, you had also gotten your real estate license, or was it 2019 that you had your license?
Yeah, I actually had my license since the summer of 2019, but I started on my own for a little bit.
Yep.
And then, joined the team in February of 2020, I believe.
Yeah.
It was, I think Dakota was a big part of why I got in too, but I had always said from when I was going to school to be a radiation therapist, I would always joke hey, if this doesn't work out, I think I want to be a realtor. I think that would be really cool. And so it happened that way, which is kind of funny, but I started on my own for a little bit, and then it just really liked the fact of what you guys were doing and just watching you guys, and I was like, hey, I think I could do that. And Dakota being rookie of the year first year, then I was like, man, that kind of lit a fire in me, and I was like, I can do that, and it happened. So
fast forward, Allison hits the scene in spring of 2020, arguably one of the toughest markets to join, get in the business. With COVID, right, just kind of all of a sudden slowing down and throwing everything off, but Allison just crushed last year and had just an amazing year. How many transactions, Allison?
It was close to 40. I think it was like
That's
30,
awesome.
38 or something like that. Yeah.
So maybe not quite as good as,
Yeah.
as Dakota, but for the year though, I mean, wow,
Yeah.
just an amazing job. That's awesome. So, and you guys got married in, what was it, November of 2019?
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, time flies. I was
know.
in the wedding,
Yep.
and does it not seem like it was like not that long ago?
Like
It's kinda
6 months ago is
yeah.
what it feels.
It really feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I had back-to-back weddings, just as a side note.
Yeah.
And like after I was in 2 weddings, and then I kind of came down with something after, and it seems like it was like just 6 months ago. So, I think this was the last time I was actually really sick. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. But anyway, tell us about tell us a little bit about what are your goals, and tell us a little bit about what your goals are. So husband, wife, working here, helping people out. What inspires you guys, and what are your goals? Allison? Dakota?
Yeah, so our goals, I feel, honestly, are an ever-changing thing. We'll start the year with this goal, and I think a lot of our goals are revolved around more so life goals than they are revolved around like a specific industry goal or this section of life goal. It's like an overall goal.
Yep.
And what that goal really over the last couple of years has formed to be is to bring more people to Christ and to do that through business. Whatever that looks like, we're not sure yet at this moment. I think it's an ever-changing thing. Yep. And so we try to do the daily and do it to the best of our ability and hold our standards very high because I feel like we're held accountable at a very high level, as well. And so that's kind of the direction we want to go with our life and continue to move forward in it. We don't have an exact target, I feel, besides the fact of prayer and just understanding the direction that God has for our life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As a team, the reason that we're in business, right, is to provide amazing service to people, right? And we demonstrate our faith when we're handling one of the largest transactions of people's lives, right?
Yep.
But we happen to sell real estate. I think that what's interesting is we could do a multiple different things, and I think we could have the same success, but we operate out of a very strong why.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool. That's super cool. Yeah. That's awesome. And, last thing here for our listeners, tell us a little bit about what it's like working together. Like, obviously you guys have different clients, some clients you work together on.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that dynamic. Allison?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I think a lot of people always ask us like, oh, you guys work together? Like that must be so hard. I kind of like it. I think it's fun. It's nice to just always have somebody there, to help you or just to kind of talk about things.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely comes with challenges for sure, because I feel like sometimes you bring work home with you too.
Yes.
And it kind of never leaves you, especially with this job.
Yep.
And you're going all the time and you don't have a set schedule. So you definitely do bring it home. But I do think we work through it pretty well, and we're always there to help each other out, which I think is fun. And I think we really wouldn't probably see each other very much if we both didn't do this because of the hours and things like that. So
Right.
I think it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of trade-offs on things that we're able to experience that I feel like other people who don't have this aren't able to experience. But then I feel like vice versa. There's things that other people have, I don't know if it's the luxury, but the ability to experience where we don't. I mean, one thing that I really do like about working together is when either myself or Allison is having a struggle, the other one knows exactly what that's like.
Yes.
We know what that means. Sometimes we know how to navigate it, or, some just helpful advice to give in what direction to go, or, what that actually looks like.
Yep.
But then vice versa, that can cause some issues as well. That it's like, hey, let me handle my own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in real estate. There's so many highs, and there's a lot of highs, and there's some lows, right?
Yeah.
And the highs certainly outweigh the lows. But when you're in a low and you have a difficult circumstance, you know, on one hand, someone can relate to it. On another hand, it's like it doesn't mean as much unless you're in it.
Right. Yep.
So yeah.
And you want to, you know, you're always super happy, like, for the next guy that brings something together or that's having successes. But the weirdest thing happens that when one of us is in one of those lows, the other one's in one of the highs, and it's like, great.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's super interesting. And Dakota and Allison are very, like, competitive in nature, and very, like, we're all pretty extreme, right? Like, we dive deep. If we're going to pursue something, we dive deep into it.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Real. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Next week, guys, you're going to listen to us talk through a very interesting topic. So thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Real. Join Dakota, Allison, and I on the next week episode of the podcast. See ya.